Hello, today we're going to solve equations with variables on both sides of the equation, and this is a review. The directions say solve the following equations. Some equations may need to be simplified first. Be sure to show your steps. So let's start out by drawing our line, our wall, and you're going to notice that there's a term with variables on both sides. So this side is as simplified as it can get. It has a term with a variable and a constant, and on this side a term with a variable and a constant. So we don't need to simplify first, we can go directly to solving. So our goal when we have terms that have variables on both sides is to eliminate one of them. We want to create a basic two-step solve by getting rid of either 3x or negative 2x. And there's choices you can make. Some people prefer to get rid of negatives, so they'd rather get rid of this negative 2x. And some people prefer to get rid of their variables that are on the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that for now. I'm going to take away this entire term. Now, normally we'd start with a constant, but because we're trying to get rid of one of the terms with variables, I have to do this on both sides. So we're not dividing by 3, we're taking away the entire term. So this becomes a 0, so we've eliminated it. And if I have negative 2x minus 3x, it would be negative 5x. And I'd strongly encourage you to use your calculator, putting in negative 2 minus 3. So that negative 18 drops down, that's left over. And on the other side, we have a plus 17, so we're going to drop that down as positive 17. So now you can see that we have a two-step equation. Our goal now is to get rid of the constant first and then go after the coefficient of x by dividing. We're no longer going to take terms away. When we get to this term, we're going to divide by negative 5. So let's start the next solving step. First, we want to eliminate the constant, and I see minus 18, so we're going to add 18 to both sides. And the result of that step is negative 5x, because we've eliminated the constant, and on this side we have 35. Our last solving step would be to eliminate the coefficient, and if you recall, side by side means multiply, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to divide by negative 5. If the coefficient is negative, we have to divide by a negative, because that creates a positive 1. So what we have left over is x, and on this side, if you remember your faces, we have a positive 35 and a negative 5, and that would be a negative answer, so it's negative 7. Once again, I'd strongly encourage you using your calculator. So we're going to complete number 2, 3, and 4 together because everyone has a different situation, and then I'm going to ask you to complete the rest of this on your own. So let's continue now. We're going to start by building our wall. I see variables on both sides of the equation, and we want to eliminate either 4a or 2a. You could take away 4a or you could take away 2a. I'm going to choose the 2a. So I'm going to subtract 2a on both sides of the equation. It eliminates the 2a on this side, on the right side, and I have negative 11 left over. Now on the other side, 4a minus 2a is 2a, and you can see we haven't touched this as plus 13 comes down. And now we have 2 more solving steps. So we're going to start by eliminating the constant, taking 13 away. So we've eliminated that. And on the left side, we have 2a left over, and negative 11 minus 13 would be negative 24. Again, I'd love for you to use your calculator. And our final solving step is to get rid of the coefficients. We divide by 2 and divide by 2, and then we've eliminated the 2, leaving a equals negative 12. Now I'm going to try to move through this quickly, so if you can pause the video at any time to copy this down. When we look at number 3, you're going to notice that we don't have a term with a variable. Like on this side, we have a term with a variable and a constant. Over here, the -5 is multiplying everything inside this parentheses. So we have to simplify by using the distributive property first. Before we can start solving, we want both sides to have a term with a variable and a constant. And right now, we have to release the terms inside the parentheses by using the distributive property. So we're going to take -5 times y, which is -5y, and then -5, and here's where we have to be careful, times -2. Negative times a negative is a positive, so it's +10. And on the other side, it's just kind of hanging out, waiting for us to simplify the left side. Now we're ready to solve. Once we have terms with variables on both sides and a constant on both sides, now we're ready to solve. So again, we can eliminate the -5y, or we can eliminate the 2y. My strategy is I'm just going to always start by eliminating the term on the right side. So I'm going to take away 2y on this side and take away 2y on this side. And what happens is I've eliminated 2y's, but now I have -5 minus 2, which would be a -7y plus the 10 that's left over. And on this side, -11. It's super important we take the sign with it. Now, before I move on, one of the strategies when people eliminate the constant on this side, if I would have added 5y, then I would have been able to avoid negative coefficient in front of y. So that certainly is another strategy, but because we've talked about this before, I'm going to move ahead. I just want you to know that you could have added 5y, which means your group of y's would have been on this side and it would have been positive. So the next step with the equation that we have right now is to eliminate the constant on the side next to the variable. So I'm going to take away 10 on both sides, and so I've eliminated that constant, and that leaves -7y left over, and I have -11 minus 10, which is a -21. Again, had I gone after this -5y first, I would have been able to avoid negatives on both sides. However, if we're using our calculator, we should be able to tackle this. So our final step is to divide by the coefficient, and if it's negative, I have to divide by a negative, because that becomes a +1, leaving y equals -21 divided by -7 is +3. All right, last one we'll do together. If you look at this side has a term with a variable and a constant, so we don't need to simplify the left side. However, the right side has a constant, a term with a variable, and another constant. One of the mistakes I see frequently is people will start solving like this before we have it simplified. Although we could do this, we don't want to do this because what's going to be left over if I continued is I would have 3n plus 32, and on the other side I'd have 5 plus 7n, and then I'd have to do this again. I'd have to take away the 5 on both sides. Frequently, students get confused when they do that also. So I'm always going to ask you to please make sure you have a term with a variable and a constant, and another term with a variable and just one constant. So what we're going to do is we're going to simplify this side by combining like terms. So I see a +5 and -10. So we're going to combine them before we solve. So we're going to have 3n plus 22. That's as simplified as that side can get. And then 5 take away 10 would be -5 plus 7n. And now we're ready to solve. We have a term with a variable on both sides, and we have a constant on both sides. So I would encourage you to start with the eliminating the term with the variable. So I'm going to go after this +7n. Now, I could also eliminate the 3n by taking it away, but I'm going to go after the 7n because I choose to take care of my variables on the, my terms on the right side and eliminate those. So I've eliminated that, leaving negative 5 on this side. And 3 minus 7 would be negative 4n. Had I eliminated the 3, I would have been able to avoid that negative. Also on this side is plus 22. We haven't touched that yet. A little bit uneven here. So my next step is to eliminate the constant. So I'm going to take away 22 on both sides. And what's left over is our negative 4n. And on this side, I have negative 27. Our final solving step would be to divide by the coefficient. It's negative. Negative divided by negative is a positive 1. And I'm going to have n, which is what our goal is. And on this side, you may see that if I have a negative divided by negative, I'm going to get a positive answer, but 4 won't go into 27 evenly. So if you're using your calculator, it will give you the decimal of 6 75/100 positive. And if you look at this, 4 will go into 27 6 whole times, and we'd have 3 left over, and we're dividing by 4. So you can write the answer either in decimal or fraction form. So thanks for listening. I hope this was helpful, and I'd like you to continue the rest of this paper. Thanks. Have a good day.